Well, of course, that was Party Doll, and there must be only one person singing that, even though I have been told that's not the original, but that's on the Liberty album. That, of course, is the one and only Buddy Knox. And Buddy is our special guest for half an hour or so, along with another of the great stars of the Rockabilly Festival, I think it's called, isn't it? Something like that. That's right, marvellous. Buddy, welcome to London. Welcome to London Country.
Well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be back again. I've been here before.
I met you. You won't remember, but I did meet you many years ago in a little rock and roll club by Blackwell Tunnel, I think it was.
That's right. I remember that. That's been a few years back.
Right.
That's right. Well, it's really a pleasure to be back again, though.
Well, it's lovely to have you here. I know you've got your own operation in the States. You run your own club, don't you? And that sort of thing.
We did for a while. We've closed it down now. We sold the club out, but I have a production company, booking agency, and a management corporation, and it's all around out of Vancouver, British Columbia. So business is good.
Oh, you're not a Canadian, though, are you?
No, I took out landed immigrant papers, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. So I live in Canada now.
Oh, well, our guest after you go is another live Canuck, manager of Anne Murray, no less.
That's right.
So there you go. And we have another star. Why don't you introduce this other gentleman sitting by your side?
Well, I tell you, I had the pleasure of running into this guy quite a few years back. We played some shows together. And I tell you, he's worked with about the top artists in the business, and he's been one of the top artists in the business, and probably one of the nicest guys. This is Warren Smith.
Warren, also welcome.
Thank you very much, and this is my first time over here.
And you say you like it. You wish you weren't going back tomorrow, I think.
I sure do like it. I'm sure sorry about having to leave.
Where are you based in the States, Warren?
Longview, Texas.
Oh, really? So
Right.
you've been in the Texas scene long before there was a Texas scene as we know it today.
Well, I suppose so.
But you recorded a lot in Hollywood. I always think of you as a West Coast artist.
Well, that's where my first country session was cut, and of course the first rock and roll was Memphis.
Which did you cut first?
Rock and roll on Sun Records.
But you got a country voice.
Well, being from Texas, you know.
Right. Well, we got one here that you said you haven't heard this yourself in a long time, right?
I guess it's been about around 10 years before I've heard this before.
And it was good, successful for you too.
I think it got up number 2 over in the States.
It's not bad, is it? What's it called?
Blue Smoke.
Warren Smith. Well, my particular copy of the Warren Smith Blue Smoke hasn't weathered the years particularly well, but that's a nice record anyway. And that's sort of a nice combination. That's sort of country with just a little bit of a rockabilly beat there, wasn't it?
It sure was. I've always liked both kinds of music, you know, country and rock.
Just sing who wrote it. I don't recognize the names at all.
I can't remember exactly. It should be on the record.
Oh, Bob Morris, of course.
Bob Morris,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do recognize him, actually.
And as a matter of fact, he's the one who's playing the steel on that.
Oh, really? Now,
Right.
he's the same Bob Morris that later went to work for Buck Owens. Is that the same Bob Morris?
I don't know whether that was the same Bob Morris or not.
He recorded for Capitol, that particular Bob Morris, and he wrote Buckaroo and What You Gonna Do with a Dog Like That, a lot of things, but he was a nice writer. And he wrote this with Dean Seals.
I believe so.
What it says here.
Yeah.
Well, that's very nice indeed. And Tommy Allsop recorded.
Right.
Yeah.
Fine guitarist. And we've got Buddy Knox now, and Buddy, you recorded sort of a country album. This is really basically a country album, isn't it, for UA?
Yeah, it was a thing called Gypsy Man. Sonny Curtis, who was one of the older Crickets,
Right.
Sonny and I got together, and Jerry Allison, and Bob Montgomery, who was also one of the old Buddy Holly groups, got together and we planned this album out, and we decided to go sort of middle-of-the-road country, because I started in country music back in the late 40s and early 50s, and then when the rock and roll thing come on and we recorded Party Doll, of course it shifted us over into the sort of the rockabilly field. But I've always had pretty heavy roots in country music, so I always wanted to go back and recut a country album. So we got together and bumped noses and got a hold of some good songwriters, Roger Miller and Jerry Chestnut and Sonny Curtis and people like that, and planned this album out, and I'm really, really pleased with it.
One of my favorites, Billy Ed Wheeler's on it.
Right.
But before we go by that, let's talk about your new single, because Graham Wood, who I'd like to thank for bringing you along here, will never forgive me otherwise, but we haven't got it. It's just not quite out yet. What's it called?
One side is an old thing that I wrote a whole bunch of years ago, and we recut it. Listen, give me the titles you got on the record now, Graham. I'm not really sure.
Shout it out, Graham.
The harmony in you and
Yeah,
me
and
is
that's
gone.
now that's
Harmony
the A
is
side.
amazing.
You're using that for the
Yeah.
A side, right?
And we have
Long and Lonely Nights is the older side. The Harmony New Me Is Gone was written by a Canadian boy named Ed Molesky, and he's one of the finest songwriters I've run across in years, and it's really a nice song.
Okay.
Flipside is one of my older jobs that we redone again and kind of changed it around a little bit.
Well, I tell you what, if Graham keeps his promise and brings out, we'll definitely play it next week.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But in the meantime, we're going to play a Jerry Chestnut number. Buddy
Right.
Knox, what's it called?
Where do the shadows go when the sun goes down?
Where Did the Shadows Go by guest on London Country, Buddy Knox and Warren Smith for another 20 minutes or so. And you're playing, it's called the Sun Sound Festival. Show. Sunshine, Sunshine Show. Okay.
We have the same problem.
Well, there's a lesson before you go on stage. You have to say what the title's called to make sure you're in the fit state to go on with the game. But that's marvelous. It's really nice. Of course, besides yourself, there's Jack Scott, who we hope to interview later in the program,
Right.
and Charlie Feathers. And I suppose, is this the first time you, Buddy, you've met? I know you met Warren. Have you met Jack before? And
I met Jack years and years ago, but I'd forgotten about it until he reminded me the other day. We'd done a show somewhere around Detroit or Chicago years ago. And Charlie Feathers, now I've never met Charlie before, but I've got a complete collection of all of his stuff. Of course, being an old rocker, you know, I've got a special feeling for Charlie Feathers.
right,
And I've got a lot of respect for Jack Scott. He's an awful fine singer and had some awful nice records out.
both rockabilly and
Right.
country. Yeah. Does it amaze you really that you guys have had to come over here to perform together in rockabilly music?
Well, for some reason, there's not a lot of larger package shows or even medium-sized package shows going on in the States and Canada right now. I really don't know the reason for it unless, well, actually, I don't know the reason for it at all, because usually that's all we work, were package shows.
Yeah, but rockabilly shows are not really rockabilly. There's not the
Not
same
really, no.
memories, is there? in the
Not
States?
with the same, say, feeling that you have for it here.
Yeah.
Over here, we can go into a show and we can do a show, and the kids out there know more about our records than we do. You know,
Yeah.
they come in, they tell me the record numbers, who wrote it, and when I put it out, and how many records are sold. The whole works.
Right.
But it's different over in the States for some reason, and in Canada for some reason they don't quite get into it that much.
Yeah. Does this surprise you, Warren? How much people know of you? I probably you haven't met many of them yet, but
It just completely shocked me to death. It really did.
oh, what have you been doing? I know you recorded for Liberty, and we're going to play a track, so many other things, and you haven't been. I believe you're talking to Graham about recording now. What have you been doing? You've been working the road, or just working locally? Or what?
Well, for the last, I guess 6 years, I haven't been active in it at any type level. I've taken a job over there in Texas, and I was talking to Graham yesterday. This is completely shocked to me to even get an opportunity to come to a place like London. You know, it's fantastic.
So you have been out of the music business?
That's right.
Well, that's sad, because, well, not sad, but I think it's wrong, because, I'm being in country music rather than rockabilly. I've known your career for a long time, and you had great records, including, in fact, a rare one we've got here, because this is with Shirley Collie you got down here.
Right.
Also, I believe, was Mrs. Willie Nelson at one time.
That's right. That goes way back. Way
Yeah,
back.
she's a good songwriter, isn't she?
She sure is.
Right, well, let's hear her. And this is a song written by a fellow Texan, isn't it?
I believe so.
Old Georgie Jones. Warren Smith.
Why, baby, why, baby, why, baby, why you make me cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby, cry. Why, baby, why?
Why, Baby, Why by Shirley Collie, Nee Nelson, and, of course, Warren Smith, who's in the studio with us today. And she's another case. Shirley was a good writer and a good singer, wasn't she?
She was a
Warren?
fine singer and a great writer.
How did you two come to record together?
Well, Joe Allison, at the time we cut this album out there that you have here, and I guess 2 or 3 days before the album was cut, he said he wanted me to sing a duet with a girl, you know, and I said, well, I've never had before, you know, and he said, well, I'm going to introduce you to her. So it was Biff Colley's wife at the time out there out on the coast, and he brought her down, and boy, she was such a nice person, you know, and a great singer. So I said, great, let's try it, you know. Well, we did, and we came off with Why I'm Walking, and I guess Why, Baby, Why.
Yeah, well, and it didn't set the charts alight, unfortunately, but it was...
Well, we had both sides in it, but not way up in it, you know.
That's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? And this one that we're going to play of yours now, Buddy Knox, is sort of under orders from the promoter, isn't it?
He suggested, I think.
I think he ordered it. But
I think he did.
it's a great number written by Gary Paxton. He was
Right.
one of the Hollywood Argyles, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wrote an old thing I think called Monster Mash, and he wrote another thing called Alley Oop years and years ago. And I ran across Gary down in Nashville, and we were doing the theme song of a movie that we'd done. And I wrote the script and the soundtracks and everything for the movie and screenplay and the whole works, and then we had to have a theme song for it and to name the movie. So we got a hold of Gary, and he came up with a song called Traveling Light. And he and I and Thomas Wayne, remember he had a song out years ago called Tragedy.
Yeah.
And he and I and Thomas Wayne went to the studio and cut this thing, and it really came out good.
Let's hear it. What's it called?
It's a thing called Traveling Light.
Buddy Knox.
Traveling light, traveling light. I'm just moving on down the road, traveling light.
Yeah, Traveling Light by our special guest, and that's Buddy Knox. And Buddy, that is nice. I really
thank
like
you.
it. And we said that George Hamilton released it a couple of years after you recorded it.
Yeah, we used it for the theme song of the movie, and for some reason the company wouldn't let us release it for a single, so George called and said, "Can I release it?" And I said, "Sure, it's a hit song, go ahead." And sure enough, he had either a #1 or #2 country song in the States out of it. And then the company decided to release it after his was starting to sell, which was too late then, you know. But still, I'm pretty proud of the record. It was a well-done record.
Yeah, it's annoying though, isn't it? And it shows George a gentleman. Most artists would just go ahead and record and release it anyway.
I still had to bite on a bullet for a couple of weeks, though.
And George had the bullet.
He sure did.
And right, beautiful. That's Traveling Light. And that I don't think's ever been out on album, has it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, great.
No, it was just a single release, and that was it.
Well, I tell you what has been out on album. That's called The First Country Collection of Warren Smith. And so far, it's about the only country collection of Warren Smith. But we're going to put an end to that, aren't we?
Right,
soon?
right.
And this is nice. This Johnny Weston was involved with this.
Right, he sure was. He did the story on the back of the album there, and he done a fine job on it. Johnny's a real good boy.
Right. He was the arranger conductor as well, I
Right.
believe. What's he doing now? I know that his main claim to fame was singing the theme of Have Gun Will Travel.
Right.
wasn't
I haven't heard from Johnny in a long, long time, but I imagine he's still active out on the coast because he's a great entertainer, and he's one of the finest MCs you could ever find anywhere.
he? Oh, really?
Yes, he's great.
Funny guy, or?
No, he's just real sincere about it, and he's a good talker. Boy, he can just pop him out just like that.
Well, I asked you to choose a track from this. Incidentally, this was lent to me by Tom Whelan, who said I could borrow it if I mentioned the fact that Bill Clifton and Red Rector are appearing on the 4 on the floor in near London Airport at the Earl Hague next Tuesday. So I always bow down to blackmail. And what's this one called, Warren?
Called Odds and Ends, Bits and Pieces.